meets that thing called life. We're inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, 3501 James Street, 401 South Salina Street, where we were this week, celebrating my cousin going D1 for women's lacrosse to one of the top teams in the nation. Top 10 team, sometimes the number 1, number 2 team in the nation. Stony Brook Seawolves heading there for women's lacrosse. And so shout out to the 401 South Salina Street location, 208 North Townsend Street, all in Syracuse, as well as inside of Galisanos Children's Hospital, right down the road from the Dome. And, of course, on 343 Fayette Streets in Manlius, and in their newest location and drive-through location at the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road in North Syracuse. So, with that being said, welcome. We got a jam-packed show inside of MonPosPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. We're going to be talking about Syracuse football, end-of-the-year report on Syracuse football as they do their exit interviews. We'll be doing our exit interview on the Orange. We'll also be talking about the American Athletic and the ACC's champions and how the conference is wrapped up this season, what we think about them as a whole. And the college football playoff, finally, for the first time ever, doing the right thing. So with that being said, of course, I'm DT, Dan Tortora, and signed on to work with us earlier this year and wearing the proper attire is Mr. Isaac Alford. Isaac, how are you doing?
Hey, pleasure. Always good to be here. You know, it's a good thing for family members getting picked up with athletics too. So not only, you know, being a fan, you know, now you have somebody you can root for. So that is some good news. So yeah.
Yeah, you know, and I got a lot of stuff to do down in the Stony Brook area. I got some people to not see down there. I got some. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. There's just some crazy people down there.
Yeah, that's all good. That's all good.
A lot of good people, yeah. But I'm happy my family's going to be down there. No, I'm very excited to go down and see Fran. Shout out to Fran, CNS North Star, Central New York native, and heading off to Stony Brook after her season this season. She and the CNS North Stars girls lacrosse team this season, and I was on site for the championship game there against Baldwinsville in Baldwinsville. They played on the road the whole way through. Nobody gave them any credit. I think they were 1-15 a couple years ago. Then they had a season canceled due to COVID. So for 2 years, they had like one win. Nobody gave them any type of hope or credit. They came in this year as an underdog all season long. They won the first sectional championship for CNS in 24 years.
So from 1-15 to champions. Who's the coach?
And their coach actually just recently changed here, so I don't want to misquote myself.
Gotcha.
So, but the girls lacrosse team over at CNS, very proud of them for what they did for the first time in 24 years with my cousin Fran being a part of it. Very, very proud of Fran. So, a lot of great stuff for them. And, you know, she made the all-CNY girls lacrosse team. Should have been to me, she should have been voted player of the year because of everything. And I'm not saying that because of family. She's insane.
Right.
She deadlifts over 315 pounds. Like, she's incredibly, incredibly gifted. Very great. Older sister Sam played for Albany D1 team. Very proud of her as well. And so,
any offers from the local team?
Well, that's a funny thing. When Gary Gate was there, nothing from Syracuse, and maybe that'll be a little oops, our bad, because they have to play Stony Brook every year in the Dome.
Right.
So Fran will be coming back here,
Good.
And she did get some. She got some. She went out to a Duke camp. She had a connection out to the Florida Gators, and she also had some other stuff here locally. Had Albany, who already knows what they got with Sam.
Right.
So very excited. She is by definition of family, biologically my cousin, but she's my little sister.
Gotcha.
So
yeah. You know what? That's like you said, the name of the programs that she got some interests from. The game of lacrosse itself is just extending itself across the country. You can see that, and I think that's even where Syracuse was. You can say like a blue blood of the sport. You could kind of see where the talent is even spreading out across the nation. It's not just only the Northeast that has the talent or whatever that goes. These kids got the opportunity to go out west, down south. So more good for her to get away from home a little bit and stuff like that. So
yeah, she's going a 45-minute plane ride away, 4 hours away. I know the area very well because I was in Long Island a bunch of times, on Long Island a bunch of times, and so I know that the cool thing for her is when she has some time to herself, she loves to shop. So she's by Broadway shows, by MSG, by, Barclays and all this beautiful stuff. And of course, the tree lighting and everything. So I'm very excited. And so Stephanie Prentice is the head varsity girls lacrosse coach at CNS. So shout out to Stephanie Prentice.
Yeah, it sounds like you know how to turn programs around.
Yeah, so she came in and they had little to nothing going on. So
yeah, we need a little bit of that in other places.
Yeah, Stephanie Prentice, you can become the Syracuse football head coach if you'd like to as well. Because they're different. They're different. See, you didn't want to say it, I'm gonna say it. This is my show.
Yeah, I got you.
Hello. but with that being said, perfect segue.
Yeah.
Let's give our end of the year report on Syracuse football.
You first. I would like to love to hear. I mean, because I don't say I'll go first, but I guess media perception wise, it wasn't really much. I know team wise, the goal is always to get to the bowl game.
Yeah.
That or bust. And that's what we always look for, no matter what the season is, what year it is. Coming into the season, Tom and DeVito, you want to know whether he was going to be able to put it together.
Yeah.
You lost some weapons on the offensively. You had some guys coming back that sat out last year, and you're like, okay, let's see how they work back in the mix. And we know what we had in Sean Tucker for the limited times he did play during the COVID year, and we see what happened this year when you give him the rock and you let him run it.
You let him go,
yeah. Yeah. So there were some surprises coming in. Not really surprises, but they stamped themselves and made themselves legit. But then, then again, like the quarterback play wasn't exactly what, it panned out to be. I mean, Garrett came in and he took over and but again, offensively, they still was very limited. Passing game was not what we wanted to see. I want to see the tight end used a lot, and we're probably going to talk about that, transfer portal stuff, but all in all, I would say media locally didn't even really give them a chance. So I think they probably said 3-4 wins, if that. I mean,
I said in my opinion, 4-8 is safe.
Right.
6-6 is as high as I'll go.
Right.
And they ended right in the middle.
Right. So, but I mean, it was a little disappointing. I think we've seen that show when it comes down to 5 wins and you that 1 win. And that's not just only with Dino. I think I've seen it with Shafe. I think I've seen it with Marone. For some reason, we can get to that cusp, and it's just like we need that 1 win. And give this year, you could probably say they let a couple ones early go that they shouldn't have. The Rutgers game I look back at, the Wake Forest game, Clemson,
all the games where he didn't go for it on 4th down.
Exactly. So, and then you're going to come into the end of the season where me particularly, I thought maybe the Louisville game was the game to have, but then I watched Louisville earlier in the season, and Cunningham is just, he's a running quarterback, but he can toss the ball around the yard too. So, and I knew NC State and Pitt was just going to be probably too much for him. So, but it was a little disappointing. I was hoping that they took care of business before that, but now we're gonna have to see what the whole changeover with coaching staff and players leaving. So, but what was your thought of it?
Yeah, my take on this was that they could not afford to lose to Liberty again, and they beat Liberty. There was, I believe, I put the list out there. It was one of my most reposted tweets of all time. A lot of people paying attention to Malik Willis.
Right.
And so for the Liberty game, I think there was 23 teams from the NFL that were there. And Syracuse showed a lot of those scouts a lot of defensively what they could do. Sean Tucker, the scouts accidentally saw Sean Tucker, and they accidentally saw Josh Black, and they accidentally saw, Jeff Canarku, who's transferred out, and some of these other guys at Kingsley Jonathan and whatnot, and Michael Jones. So that was great for them to kind of get an opportunity that they wouldn't have had if Malik didn't come to town.
Right.
They couldn't afford to lose that. They didn't. I think it was 24-21. And then, the Ohio game, they did what they were supposed to do. I told you at the beginning of the season, if they lost to Ohio, the season was over.
Yeah.
And, I know it's only 1 game, but to me, coming off of a 1-10 season, they really honestly could not lose that game, I think, mentally. And so they didn't, which was great. And then, to go from there to see, kind of throughout the rest of the season, what they did in the game against Florida State, it was a couple plays at the end. and you just saw, their quarterback get past them. And, I think, Marlo Wax Jr., he thought that he had him. He thought that he had gotten him out of bounds, and it just wasn't the case. So I think, for me, that was a hard game to watch because Syracuse had that. They've never won in Tallahassee. They lost 33-30. And then, in Florida State, unlike the special teams this year at Syracuse, Florida State's kickers are really good.
Right.
And they go to the NFL. So, the Aguayo brothers and whatnot. So, I think that game was a game I wish they had back. Not going for it on 4th and 8 against Rutgers on Rutgers' 42-yard line. And I asked that question to Dino. We were both there, and I said, why? And he said, well, it's closer to 4th and 10. It's 4th and long. If it was 4th and 5 or shorter, 4th and 1, 4th and 2, I would have gone for it. We obviously know that he didn't live by those words.
Right.
And on 4th and 2 against Wake, he didn't go for it. They lose in overtime. 4th and 1 against Clemson, he didn't go for it. Tried a 47-yard field goal, and unfortunately, Andre Schmidt missed it. So for me, a lot of this is on Dino when it comes to those 3 or 4 games.
Right.
And so now we're talking about an 8-win or a 9-win team. And outside of that, I think, defensively, the team started really strong and then kind of dipped.
Yeah.
And that was something that I'll kind of go back to the drawing board as a team, and I hope they look at the why. Because they had the talent up front. They had the most veteran line that they've had since Tim Doust. They had Kingsley Jonathan. They had McKinley Williams. They had Curtis Harper. They had other guys like Caleb Okechukwu stepping up. They had Josh Black. So Cody Roscoe having a fantastic season this season. So seeing all of that, I'm a little surprised in the defense. Michael Jones, I'm a little surprised in the defense. The back line with these young guys, I wanted more from Jahad Carter and Rob Hanna. I know they went through injury and whatnot, but I anticipated more from Garrett Williams, who couldn't stay healthy in the beginning of the year. So I think that kind of sits with me. I know injuries affected it, but kind of the why was the defense. So why did it dip? For whatever reason, they absolutely stink at Louisville. It doesn't matter the coach. It doesn't matter the personnel. They can't win in Louisville. I gave them a shot this year. I already knew my lesson, and I really learned it this time. I will not pick them to win in Louisville maybe ever again, unless they really, show me something. So that was a tough one to stomach. And then, seeing 3 games needing to win 1, it was at Louisville, at NC State. Neither one of those games I really felt good about. And Pittsburgh's such a good team under Pat Narduzzi. So to be completely honest, I thought those were the 3, some of the worst games Syracuse could have played to need 1.
Yeah.
But it shows where Syracuse is and where other teams are.
Right.
And I think that Syracuse has been exposed. And my buddy Joe said, "Can we just admire the facial hair on both sides of the mic? My goatee and your beard." So thank you, Joe. Much appreciation. But so to me, it's frustrating with those pieces. It's frustrating that Tommy DeVito, to me, never panned out. I'm a fan of him. I'm a fan of his family. Good arm strength. Never checked down. I want to say never. A lot of the times didn't check down. Didn't survey the field enough. Those were questionable things to me. And ultimately, I just feel like he had the arm strength, but he didn't have everything you need to be a D1 quarterback at this place in the ACC.
Right.
And because I want to say at this level, because Syracuse really isn't at the level of the rest of the ACC.
Right.
So I consider Syracuse the worst team in the ACC this year.
No, I agree with what you said. It's definitely about the defense on the back end. I mean, injuries really kind of zapped the secondary. You didn't really have a consistent rotation back there with safety and then cornerback. You definitely Andre Cole got some run for Garrett when Garrett was down.
Yeah.
There's still some guys back there that you really didn't get a chance to see. I didn't really see Neil Nunn come out, really. I thought he might have had an opportunity.
Not a lot of Coley, who's been there.
Right. And, that definitely did kind of, and you can kind of see teams really picking on Deuce as the season went on. He's a freshman. You're going to do that regardless. But the young man held his own. He didn't shy away from it. He didn't make excuses.
Yeah.
And he did what he had to do. I thought the front 7 was pretty decent, I don't think this year defensively we've seen, other than the Virginia Tech game where teams kind of imposed their will running the ball against them. That was kind of like a shocker when Virginia Tech really wasn't doing well on the run. But that game, even though Syracuse came out and won it, but they kind of ran the ball down. I would go back. No, NC State was it NC State or Louisville? One of the I think it was Louisville. It was just like the first drive. It was just like, did we not practice? Was that after the bye week?
It was after the bye week.
Yeah, it was Louisville. Louisville guys came out.
And I was like, leaving it to Syracuse, it's like the bye week hurt them. Normally, bye weeks help teams get healthy. So,
yes. So that was a real disappointment where the run defense played in the beginning of that Louisville game. Then after that, it was just chaos. It wasn't much they could do. They couldn't stop the run, and then after they couldn't really stop the run, they just went over the top of them with the pass. So. But we'll see. I mean, we talked about it before coming on. They got a lot to replace.
Yeah.
Not only roster wise, but coaching. It's a tough situation to be in a position to try to bring in a coach. And like you say, does a coach want to come here
knowing that Dino's going to get fired?
Yeah. So who's going to take that risk? I mean, you got to be a man, I ain't gonna say a dear friend, but somebody that really needs an opportunity to shine or whatever.
Well, and the thing is, you would say somebody that needs the money, but Syracuse isn't known to pay him.
Exactly.
So
that's the other thing too.
That's the other part of it is like you want to get somebody to come here and to a sinking ship, and you don't want to compensate them. What they, what a typical team maybe would, and so that's the side of it. And I'm speaking from knowing that. There were coaches that were here at Syracuse where the head coach was paid like a coordinator, the coordinators were paid like assistants, and the assistants, you didn't even want to know what they were paid.
Right.
So everybody was down a level,
right.
Because typically you'd think a few years ago, probably more now, could be more now, but that a coordinator is supposed to make at least $1 million, and that 6 figures for your assistant coaches, and that your head coach is, supposed to make, in today's world, in order to hire someone, probably around 3 to bring them in.
Start, yeah.
So, I think that's an issue in Syracuse. I think seeing a mass exodus, coaches are leaving in droves. Dino has Mike Lynch, who he demoted as co-offensive coordinator, who was with Sean Lewis, who's now at Kent State as the head coach, and successful, and just played in the MAC championship. But, albeit he lost, but still he was there. So, Mike Lynch got demoted to running backs coach. Nick Monroe has been moved around the secondary area. But besides those two and Sean Ettinger, who's there for your strength and conditioning, there's nobody else.
Right.
Your coordinators have changed offensively and defensively. You didn't have a special teams coordinator last year to change anything. And beyond that, you've seen wide receiver coaches change, D-line coaches change, linebacker coaches change. Dino has lost so much, either by firing coaches or having coaches leave. The wide receivers coach was here not even 365 days. He just left.
Right.
And he left for Kansas, who really hasn't been relevant, started to get relevant with Les Miles. But let me just paint you a picture. Kansas football, in my opinion, going into this year, worst team of the 130, the worst FBS team in America for Division 1A. Your wide receivers coach just left Syracuse to go to Kansas. So in an inadvertent way, he just said he thinks you're worse than Kansas football. Most people don't even know Kansas has a football team.
Exactly. The Rock Chalk Jayhawk.
Right.
Who's talking football over there?
Right. You know the Jayhawks for Bill Self and basketball.
Right.
So, and before that, Roy Williams. So, I think for me, seeing the coaching staff leave, well, to go back to kind of assessing the team, and then I'll go to that. To go back to the quarterback situation, going into the season, I thought Garrett Schrader should have been the guy. Because he's multiple, Tommy was not.
Right.
Tommy held on to the ball too long. Tommy didn't check down. Tommy would look at his receivers. Tommy kind of just threw. It seemed like he already knew who he was going to throw to before he threw the ball.
Right.
So you can't do that at this level. And you have to survey the field. He didn't. You got to check down. He didn't. You got to get out of the pocket. He didn't. You got to be able to run. He did at times. And you got to have good vision, which we really didn't see him utilize, and he held on too long. I looked at his stats from 2019, which was his best year, and I looked at Garrett Schrader's stats. And when I put them up next to each other, 112 carries for DeVito, 113 for Schrader, almost the exact amount of carries, one off. 122 yards for DeVito, 1.1 yards a carry. 567, I believe, or 587 for Schrader, 5.6 yards a carry. So you got two quarterbacks running as many times as the other one. This guy's got almost 600 yards. This guy's barely got over 100. This guy's got halfway to a first down. This guy's got a yard. So to me, that showed me everything I needed to know. You got a quarterback that really can't run and a quarterback that can. So at worst, if he can't throw, at least he can get out of the pocket.
Yeah, and I would say probably most of those DeVito rushing attempts
were sacks.
Exactly. So those are him going into the ground. So yeah, that's the difference between somebody able to use their legs and get out of the pocket, like you just said, and scramble. But yeah, it just, I don't know. Maybe of a better offensive line. Maybe he got shell shock. I don't know what his issue was, but like you said, I thought he had arm talent, and
yeah,
maybe, and like you said, he just got too dependent in his early years to lock on that one receiver and throw it to Jamal or throw it, to Sean and let them run and get it. But it just.
Or they would always do one deep out to Taj.
Right, or Nakeem or somebody like that, So it's for some reason. But the other piece to it, like we said going into the season, why we're not using our tight ends? That could have been a release valve for the guy.
Well, normally when a quarterback is reeling and suffering and the line is suffering, you go to your running back and your tight end. Those are your two escape routes.
Right.
And they went to Sean Tucker. But I said a couple of years ago that Syracuse had their best tight end tandem that they've had in easily over a decade. Since Nick Provo and younger brother Tyler Provo were here, there's been no relevancy in the tight end.
Right.
Not that guys weren't capable, not that Ron Thompson and some of these guys couldn't do some things, but they weren't being used. When Luke Benson and Aaron Hackett came in here, I thought to myself, seeing what they did, they have a 1-2 punch at tight end. They've waited forever to have one. Now they have two. And so many coaches had not put the tight end in the game plan in the passing attack. So I'm looking at this going, wow, it's been forever since I've seen over the middle to Nick Provo. So here's Aaron Hackett, who literally reached what Nick Provo had. And he found that. Like, statistically, he was right there with Nick Provo.
Right.
And so, looking at the last two seasons, I looked at last year and what the team did. Like, right before Aaron left, I look at what the team was doing, and I'm like, dang, what was the year before? Every time they went to him or Luke Benson, they were automatic.
Right.
It was like 85% of the time, 83% of the time, 85% that they threw the ball to these guys. When they would fake it, go over top in the end zone, they were cash money, at least 80% effective. It was like a good free throw shooter.
Right.
And then they went away from it, and I said, when they did that, I could understand Hackett leaving, which he did. And he was going to go to TCU. We spoke when he committed there, ended up at Kent State. And then Luke Benson is now leaving after he was literally not used at all this year. I think he had like 2 catches. So what frustrates me is Syracuse doesn't use the tight end. It doesn't feel like they're prepared for that. Maybe they're not even recruiting that. Then they stumble upon 2 really good tight ends. They misuse them, and now they've lost them both. This is not a Syracuse didn't have a tight end that was relevant. This was Syracuse didn't use the tight ends they had. Syracuse is 100% responsible for losing them, just like, and I'm sorry to say this, and we have a good relationship, Jim Boeheim's 100% responsible for losing Kadari Richmond.
Yeah. I totally agree. Or Quincy Gary.
Quincy Gary, yeah.
So, but yeah, that's just disturbing that they didn't. And I was thinking off in my head while you were saying some of the Beckett Wells, those guys. Some of the other, that had the opportunity. That if you give them a play here and there, they was able to produce for you. And maybe they just used the tight end to block, but those guys really wasn't blocking tight ends. Luke Benson not. The speed that young man had to get down the field, that play I remember, I think COVID year when he took it to the house against Duke. And I'm like, okay, where's that play? And that's the other frustrating thing about
you
the
see
team.
it once and never again.
Yeah, they'll call plays and they don't go back to plays that work. So I guess that's why Tuck made
Syracuse is notorious for going, that was a good play.
Right.
Throw it out.
Exactly. Yeah. So I just don't get the scheme or the mentality. Okay, yeah, we did something that works. Yeah, somebody gonna see it on the film, but you can play off of that too after you show it. You find out who's really studying you, if they really studying you. I don't know.
I don't think anybody has to study Syracuse.
Exactly.
Not now.
So
Paul Pasqualoni, Coach Mack, then yeah.
Right.
Ben Schwartzwalder, yeah, you had to study him back then. You haven't had to study Syracuse since kind of Marone.
Yeah, exactly. So
and what Lester was doing with the offense, I did like where he was going. If he was actually given time with the no huddle, I think it would have been really good.
Right, exactly. So
because the funny thing is, Dino came in, Orange is the new fast, but what people fail to remember is Lester was running the no huddle, and so Dino comes in with his moniker, Orange is the new fast, but the fastest offense in recent history that Syracuse ran was run the best under Lester. It's never been run the best under Babers.
Right. No,
or any of his 36 offensive coordinators.
Yeah, and I agree. And this is just a gimmick. I mean, every team does it. I mean, yeah, we made a moniker of it, but look at Tennessee. Tennessee does the same thing.
I told you it's Orange is the new 3 and out.
Yeah, that's what it was. Exactly.
I use that hashtag. That hashtag belongs to me.
But you got to play to your strength. If your strength is not throwing the ball, why are you even going to try to go fast? That's why, I mean, Tucker had the success he had because they had to play to exactly who they were. But
Syracuse beats the Clemsons and the Florida States and all these teams by shortening the game, by running the ball, and by running the ball in hard defense is how Syracuse has always won. And here they are trying to go away from it, and look at what happened.
Yeah, you lost your identity, and that's basically exactly what happened.
Syracuse came into the ACC having an identity crisis, and they've only gotten worse with that. They have not had an identity since Paul Pasqualoni, and what really frustrates me that I've said numerous times on the show, Paul Pasqualoni had 11 straight winning seasons when he came to Syracuse. Then he had a 4-8 year, which is like the initiation of every new coach at Syracuse. You have to go 4-8 one of your years. Unless you're Greg Robinson, you have to go under that. But basically, you got to go 4-8 to keep it real. And so 4-8, he had one of those years, and then he went 6-6 the last two. He gets fired going 6-6. When I spoke to Daryl Gross, Daryl, and we've talked candidly for years, Daryl said to me, listen, that wasn't, he goes, how could I have fired this guy coming into Syracuse? I was there for 8 days. I didn't know him.
Right.
So there's the notion that he was told by a body of people, you're our new AD, and we don't want it on our blood, or we don't want blood on our hands, so you're going to fire him because this is they basically brought him into a room and said, you're firing Paul Pasqualoni.
Gotcha.
So that's how he said it. He's like, how I didn't know Paul enough to fire him.
Right.
So everybody blames Daryl, and there's truth somewhere in this, but Daryl said, listen, I came in, I didn't know him, and I was basically told, guess what? Welcome to Syracuse. This is your job now.
Right.
So he fires Paul 6-6, 2 years, and 2004 Paul goes away. Now Syracuse fans think 6-6 is relevant. They think it's good.
Yeah, we're wishing for 6-6 now.
And so I tell people as an end of the year report, I'm very saddened by the fact that Paul Pasqualoni could be fired with 11 winning seasons, 1 losing season, and 2 6-6 seasons, and he got 4-8, 4-8, 10-3, 5-7, 1-10, 5-7 is good enough.
Yeah,
it's not good enough.
No, it's not.
And I'm not saying that about Babers. I'm saying that about any coach. It's not good enough.
And
if you're Scott Schaefer right now, I'd be cussing Syracuse the heck out, telling me that 4-8, 7-6 ain't good enough.
Right.
Because 10-3 was with his guys.
Right.
So technically, Schaefer's been to 2 bowls and had 2 4-8 records. So he's better than Dino, right? And he recruited better than Dino.
Right. Yeah, no, I get it, and that's. Be careful what you wish for. You never know. I mean, every program is going to have ups and downs.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes some fan bases get a little, too big of themselves. Because even I was just looking at the thing about Jimbo. We were talking earlier about what LSU was offering him, but somebody in the comments was like, "Oh yeah, but you went 8-4 one year." I'm like, 8-4, yeah, we would love to be 8-4. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
or disparaging the year they lost one in the COVID year. So I bet
on the SEC, you got 1 losing at Ogeron.
Right.
Win a championship, lose your quarterback. The next year, lose your top wide receiver, and you get fired in the middle of the year.
But see, that's the thing is every program's gonna go through this. USC. Sooner or later, Alabama gonna go through it too,
Oregon,
So yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly.
Florida State,
exactly. Look all these.
North Carolina.
Zach, I was just getting ready to say they had high hopes coming into the season, and they went 6-6. So it's down Mac Brown sucking with the recruiting class he was bringing in,
and even Pitt. Between firing Dave Weinstedt and hiring Pat Narduzzi, can people even name those coaches?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, not me.
And then Pitt basketball, you fire Jamie Dixon, and there's been no relevancy for a really long time. So, for me to look back on this year, my frustration comes with the fact that I liken Sean Tucker. I think he's even better than this, but I'm going to go back to I think it was a 1,500-yard season for Maurice Jones-Drew in Jacksonville.
Okay.
And covering the Jaguars, interviewing Maurice Jones-Drew, standing in the locker room, eye to eye with him, and we're both 5'8", but I got like a hair taller than him, and he's got about 100 pounds on me. And so I'm looking at him, and I'm thinking about this team. They had the 31st best offense in the country that year out of 32 NFL franchises, and he rushed for 1,500 yards, and he led the country.
Right.
I liken that to Sean Tucker, who is in that 1,500-yard mark with an offensive line that couldn't stay healthy and couldn't get it going, and yet he's successful. Sean Tucker is by far the best piece of this. The defense over the last 2 years has just lost by eligibility in the draft. They've lost a lot of guys.
Right.
Tony White's built a better defense. They were ranked, I think, 22nd nationally in points allowed, or yards allowed, even though they still allowed over 300 yards.
Right.
So 22nd out of 130, it's good, but you're still allowing 300 plus. So I look at the defense and I say, okay, that's good. And I look at, Sean Tucker and I say, well, that's good. But waiting on Garrett Schrader, I told you by week 4, if he didn't play, that I thought he was going to say something.
Right.
And not because I think he's a bad apple. I just thought he was going to be, why am I coming here from Mississippi State in the SEC to come play for this and not play?
Right.
So my end of the year thing is Garrett Schrader, and I would be talking about him being multiple. But I like him more surveying the field than Tommy. I like that he can run. I like that he can create plays. I do not think he's Dungy 2.0. I don't think there is a Dungy 2.0 currently. And if and when I ever see a Dungy 2.0, I'll tell you. But at Dungy, to me, there's one Dungy. There's no 1.0 or 2.0. It's just Eric Dungy.
Right.
Like there's one Donovan McNabb. So I think Garrett helped the offense. I think Michael, probably wants some plays back, but he did some good stuff. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Syracuse's team under Dino Babers, it's individually talented, but collectively they stink.
Right.
And that is a coaching and scheming problem.
Yeah.
That is a coaching problem, and that is a square peg round hole. That is a coach making bad decisions and a coach not having the right game plan. When your individual players are good and you don't win, and you don't at least get to 6-6, that is a Dino problem. And I'm going to say this too. When you have 14 players at the time we're talking in the transfer portal, and the majority of your coaching staff has been fired or left, I'm going to make it very clear. When your coaches are running away and your players are running away, this is not just a team losing. There's a culture problem. There's an environment problem. Your AD kept a head coach who student athletes and assistant coaches are running away from. That should say something in and of itself. Dino has created a culture that is not good from what I'm seeing, and I just did an interview with former running back Jordan Fredericks. It would behoove you all to listen to it. I'm going to be sharing it this week. He told me everything that we've prognosticated. He said flat out that when Schaefer left, because he was from the beginning, end of Schaefer to the beginning of Dino.
Right.
He said to me when Schaefer left and Dino came in, there was an immediate culture change for the worst. And he said that, you can hear the story, but Dino accused him of smoking weed. He made him take a drug test. Nothing happened.
Right.
And he kept going in and saying, what do I need to do to play? What do I need to do to play? Eric Dungy defended him in practice, according to Jordan Fredericks, and Dino went over to Eric and said, do you want to keep your job?
Wow.
So Jordan made it very clear that what a lot of people have prognosticated and feared about Syracuse according to Jordan, is 100% true. If you wanted a smoking gun, Fredericks gave it to me on Wake Up Call.
Gotcha. Now, that's interesting. Because, I guess the young man, he was playing right before Dino came in, and then all of a sudden it just...
He was told he was going to be the number 2. He gained weight in the couple months that they didn't have a coach.
Right.
And Dino told him what to do. He dropped like 50 pounds. He did everything Dino asked of him.
Right.
And Dino wouldn't let him be on there. And then he would say, oh, you're going to play later on. He thought, okay, maybe it's this game, maybe it's the next game. Mm-hmm. And he kept saying, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? And then the team had a party, and and Jordan goes, I didn't even go to this player's party.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dino accused him, in Jordan's words, of doing something wrong and smoking weed and this and that. And then he went to him and said, hey, basically, how dare you say this about me?
Right.
And then Dino said to him, take a drug test, and he took a drug test, and it was negative.
Right.
But, Jordan told me that the environment with Dino Babers is not good, and I don't know how Dino can refute that when the people you hired coming into Syracuse left, the people that you just hired left, and you've either fired or had people leave. You just fired Vincent Reynolds, who's Eric Coley's stepdad. You just fired him, who was with you from the beginning. But really just look at this. Dino Babers, in the 7 years he's been at Syracuse, going into year 7, he has never kept 100% of his staff, either by firing or them leaving.
Right.
And with the transfer portal now, every team has it, just like every team had to fight through COVID. And what did they say last year? Oh, it was a COVID year. What did Wildhacks say? Well, you can't hold it against them. Alabama was still Alabama. Clemson was still Clemson. Right. Florida got better. You can't use the pandemic when everybody goes through it. You can't use the portal when everybody has access to it. There are 14 players in the portal, and multiple coaches have left Syracuse, and some of them are going to programs that, like a Kansas, that I can't even fathom could be better than Syracuse. You got a player talking about it. You got Sean Tucker being public about stuff, who's your best player.
Mm-hmm.
And you got coaches and players running away.
Well, you know how they say, when there's issues, you're either going to fire your assistants, and if they don't get that correct, then guess who's next on the chopping block? So, it's going to be hard to replace those guys, too. Like we were just saying, who's going to come here if you're only going to be here for a year? How you even structure a contract?
And how do you do an entire season without a special teams coordinator when they're responsible for a third of your team? And when you had Justin Lustig, he was phenomenal, and he went on to Vanderbilt to be with Clark Lee, who used to be a coach at Syracuse under Schaefer, mind you.
Well, head coach at Vanderbilt, right?
Yeah. So, who was at Notre Dame as a D coordinator and linebackers guy. So, you look at what Lustig did. You didn't replace him. That's another red flag and a smoking gun for me. Dino couldn't call anybody. Did everybody say no?
Mm-hmm.
There's no coach that wanted to work.
All
There's
right.
no coach that wanted to make $100,000. To me, when you go an entire season with a special teams coordinator, if I'm the AD, I'm going to Dino going, you ran out. I would think, do you not have a network? Mm-hmm. Do you not have a good reputation? Did you piss off enough people? Did Lustig say something when he walked out that people maybe respect him for it?
Right.
You know what I mean? And not that Lustig would say anything, but I'm just saying, when Lustig left,
you don't know.
Did that kind of show you? That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying Lustig anything negative about him, but
right.
When you leave a bad boss and somebody says, "What was it like working for them?" and you're honest, I'm saying it could be that. When we look at the players, Landon Morris was touted as a wide receiver tight end that was going to be strong here. I interviewed him a bunch of times. Syracuse fought for him, from what I could understand. He left.
I don't think he made it through fall camp.
Yeah, I don't. I honestly think the plane landed and left.
Yeah.
And then Cody Shear, we never saw him. This was funny. The plane did land and leave. He transferred from a team to Syracuse in June, and then in August he was gone. He was gone before the season.
Right.
So he literally was like, "I think I'm going to go to Nope."
Right.
Russell Thompson Bishop never got a chance. He left.
Never got a feel, yeah.
Jarvion Howard has moved on. Taj, who did the exclusive with me, has moved on. Tommy, and so you're looking at this. Jarvion was a 2.
Mm-hmm.
Taj was a 1. Tommy was a 1. Lattery Kinsler, he came here for 5 seconds. Dylan Markowitz, I said they had 4 freshmen due to COVID. All 4 backup quarterbacks to Garrett Schrader are freshmen. And I said I wouldn't be surprised if one, if not all of them, leave.
Right.
Dylan left. Jeff Canton-Arku, who rotated in the linebacker core, made huge plays, got interceptions, forced fumbles. This guy was not a backup who did nothing. He's a quality guy, and if you want to know how quality he is, I think he's gotten close to maybe, I think at this point he's somewhere between 10 and 20 offers in the transfer portal. Curtis Harper left, so you lose all your starters on the D-line and you lose your rotator. That's awful. Joe Rondi on the D-line, who could have helped out, he's gone. Luke Benson, who's a number 1 tight end, is gone after Aaron Hackett's gone, so you lost your 2 best tight ends in a decade. Adrian Cole, who you mentioned filled in at corner, he's gone. And now you lose Cooper Lutz, who was your only backup to Sean Tucker.
Right, right. And then you got a guy, coming off an injury that's backing up. But it is what it is. But, I mean, like you say, when there's smoke, there's fire. So something's going on there. And
you're losing starters.
Exactly. Yeah,
you're losing starters or people with quality minutes.
Right.
In a list of 14 players outside of Lattery Kinsler, Cody Shear, Joe Rondi, and maybe Russell Thompson Bishop.
He really never got on the field, though.
So you got 10 guys.
Right.
Landy was supposed to get out there. Jarvion Taj, Tommy, Dylan, we don't know what he could have been. Jeff Canton-Arku, Curtis Harper. Jeff Canton-Arku have started at certain points. Jeff has been a captain. Luke has started. Adrian, an injury. Somebody's injuries has started.
Right.
Cooper Lutz has started. Cooper Lutz scored his first ever touchdown at Notre Dame. So, Taj and Jarvion, Tommy, I mean, you're looking at a list of 14 where half of those guys were starters.
Right. Yeah. And that's the tough thing about it, because if you're really trying to build something and you're losing starters or the guys that was in your rotation, now that's going to put you even a step back, unless you just out there killing it on the recruiting trail.
Which they're not.
Exactly. So, now you're going to make if you're trying to make a turnaround, you just made it even harder for yourself, because now you're not even retaining the guys that, if they were buying in, they can even teach the other guys that's coming through the door new. But, that's, that is something that tells you that, hey, what's really going on with this situation here.
So this is the question. And I say this knowing that I have a good relationship with Dino Babers. Why keep a coach who players are leaving, coaches are leaving, and the new signing period of December is when most teams are locking up their entire true freshman roster, including Dino, of the last few years. He only has 10 commits at this point that right before Christmas would sign.
Right.
If they all sign.
If they sign, yeah.
So you're losing a bunch of guys who finished up their eligibility.
14. We're losing 14, and you only got 10.
So you got 10 coming in, allegedly.
Right.
You're losing 14 to the transfer portal. And then when you go and you look at the roster of who's finished, now I want to go down the line here and really look at the hard numbers, because I believe your roster's got to carry 85. Right? So when we look at this, and we look at the 2021 football roster for Syracuse, this is who's done. Devon Cooper, who never got a shot and was good this year. Redshirt senior, who wasn't used enough like Nykeem. So McKinley Williams is a redshirt senior. Devon Cooper's a redshirt senior. Abdul Adams is a redshirt senior. Eric Slater, linebacker who we never saw, is a redshirt senior. Aaron Service is a 6-year senior. Josh Black is a 6-year senior. Colby Barker, the punter who came out there of the 3 punters, he's a redshirt senior. So that's 7. Then you have Chris Elmore, who can come back due to only playing 4 games. Kingsley Jonathan, and you got Cody Roscoe. So we're going to say 9. Okay, they got lucky there. So we're going to say 9. Then we're going to say 14 transfers.
Right.
So that's 23.
Is Andre transferring Schmidt? Or what's
he's another guy, but he's not officially on some of these lists.
Right.
So that's 23, right? Then we're saying in a normal year you got to bring in around 22 guys.
Right.
So if you can carry 85 scholarships, Dino's got to find 40 to 45 players. He has to fill more than half the roster by the beginning of February.
Right. And be able to, if you hopefully he's going through the transfer portal because you're going to have to be able to bring guys in January.
He better hope to God he's got some person that used to work the government that can hack everybody else's stuff and hack 129 other teams.
Right.
So he's the only coach in the transfer
Right,
portal.
because in his situation, you can't wait to bring kids in fall, and hopefully you're going to train them over 3 weeks to get them ready for a season. You know, some of these guys you got to hopefully going to bring in January, go them through spring ball, get their bodies back into the workout room, and then go into fall camp because there's no way the numbers are not on their side.
No, and and the thing is, so with everything you have, and this is the thing too, of the 3 coordinators of the 3 phases of the team, you need 2 out of 3 new coaches. You don't have a special teams coordinator and you don't have an offensive coordinator. You have Tony White at D coordinator. So you're losing all these players to eligibility, to the transfer portal, and 2 out of 3 of your coordinators are not on the team right now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's going to make it tough. I think I saw something earlier, though. They did get somebody for special team coordinator, believe it or not.
That there's somebody that they're supposed to be bringing.
Yeah. That maybe is a Pennsylvania guy. I'm trying to find his name right now here.
But looking at that, Bob Ligashevsky.
Yes.
Reportedly here within the last couple days that he would be coming in. So, and then you're still looking for an OC. And in my opinion, the only person I would see come into Syracuse as an OC is a guy who talks to Wild Hack privately and says, it's a guy who I think is on the cusp of being a head coach or maybe has been a head coach. He's someone who's looking to be a head coach or who has been a head coach that would come here and say to Wild Hack, I'm going to sit here for a year and then I'm going to be your head coach.
Right.
Because any OC that comes here best darn well be looking at a head coaching position.
Right. Yeah, you can't.
Because I can't imagine, Dino. I can't imagine this team being 6-6 or better next year. I can't see it.
Yeah, and the schedule's even tougher than what it was this year. So
yeah.
And you got when whoever that OC is that comes in, I don't know what the playbook is. We've heard the rumors about there is no playbook. They do whatever they do based off of whatever the situation. Whoever the new OC, he got to come in running the show from the beginning. Dino just got to sit back, let this guy install his offense, and let them go from day one. Because, whatever this whole communication between, and I don't know if you've seen it with Tommy, come off the field and there's conversations like, well, who's supposed to go this way? Who's supposed to go this way? And then we hear in the press conference, well, it's not one person's fault. It's 3 or 4. Let's run a route in the play.
Yeah, Dino said, I want to go for 2, but the personnel didn't understand it. That's a you problem.
Right, exactly.
When you call a timeout after a timeout, that's a you problem.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you need them, that's a you problem. And when it's 4th and 1 and you have one of the top 3 backs in the nation, that's a you problem. And you have Garrett Schrader, that's a you problem. And 4th and 2, that's a you problem. And when you're trying to win a game, Baltimore and Lamar Jackson just lost to the Steelers because they went to win the game at the end. They went to go for 2 instead of going for the extra point.
Right.
I would rather see a team lose trying to win than see Dino not trust his offense.
Right. No.
And this is the thing that I don't understand beyond everything. You're an offensive guru and you don't go for it and you can't. You know what? This is what I want. This is what I want. Don't hire an offensive coordinator. Show me that you're good.
Right.
Show me.
Yeah, some people said that. I've seen that, yeah.
Show me that you're good.
Right. You know what? He might have to. Like you said, who's going to sign up?
Well, because after this year, he's going to be a quality control coach at a D1 school.
Exactly, but he might have to do that,
There's no way that he goes to a Power 5 as a head coach.
No.
He's going to have to... The only thing he can do right now is be a coordinator, and I don't even know if he can pull that off.
Right.
I don't know if he could be an offensive coordinator somewhere right now at a big name.
Right.
Look at what Doug Marrone did. Doug Marrone's and now he's an O-line coach with Nick Saban to try and resurrect his career.
Right. Well, that's why fired coaches go to resurrect their career. You go to Alabama. So.
You go to Nick Saban.
Yeah.
But when we look at this and we look at the schedule coming up for Syracuse next season, Syracuse is going to be playing Notre Dame. Syracuse is going to be playing Wagner. Syracuse is going to be playing Purdue. And Syracuse did this really smart thing, kind of in little hush-hush, is that they scheduled UConn 100 times because UConn's independent and they suck.
Well, we hope they suck.
Oh, but Jim Moore going to be there now.
Yeah.
So, former NFL
not
coach.
playoffs.
Yeah, not that
one. Not the
Jim Moore Jr.
Gotcha.
But we got Syracuse has UConn on the schedule a bunch of times now, and and Syracuse needs to look at 2023 because the men's basketball team just lost to Colgate. So I don't know if you want to be playing Colgate, but you got at UConn, Purdue, Wagner, and Notre Dame for Syracuse. And then outside of that, that Syracuse is going to be playing Wake, NC State, Clemson, Louisville, Florida State, and Boston College,
right.
Pittsburgh, and then they'll have a rotator of Duke, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Virginia, or Virginia Tech. Virginia's got a new coach. Virginia Tech's got a new coach. Georgia Tech's trying to figure it out with Jeff Collins. Duke and David Cutcliffe trying to figure things out, and Mac Brown in North Carolina.
Yeah, it's like those. I don't know if you text me or not, but all these coaches in the conference are either stepping down or getting relieved, and we still hold on to our coach.
Bronco Mendenhall resigned, and I was like, why?
Exactly.
He recruited well.
Right.
I like his quarterbacks. I like what he's done. I like what the team has been able to do. They have vied to be at the top. They ended 500 in the ACC. I like Justin Fuente and everything he did at Memphis. And Mike Norvell came and did good things there too. I honestly, and I'm going to say this real deal, if Dino got fired after 2021 this season, I would have looked at hiring Justin Fuente, even though he didn't do what he was supposed to do at Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
I would have paid him $3 million a
Right.
year. I would have. And people might think I'm crazy, but hey, he dealt with injuries and all kinds of stuff. He went to an ACC championship game.
Mm-hmm.
So so that doesn't make sense to me. Miami finishes second, and they fire man. And let's talk about this for a second. You start dating your new boo publicly. You go take pictures with her on the red carpet while your other boo is at home taking care of your kids.
Exactly.
Literally was recruiting and taking care of the team. Manny Diaz was home holding the baby, feeding the other 3 kids that are running around throwing things at each other, and they're out there. They took a plane ride to go have relations with Mario Cristobal.
That's how they do it to you.
And you know what? Let me say something about Miami because, Manny, you should have known this. I'm going to tell you why. Because there's a song by 112 and Mace, and I listened to it when I was 12 years old, and I told myself, never forget this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I married somebody, and I should have known. I should have learned my lesson.
Yeah.
The line of the chorus is, if she got with you when she already had a man, why wouldn't she cheat on you?
Right.
Manny Diaz accepted the job at Temple a couple years ago, and Mark Richt stepped down, and Miami said, screw Temple, come back here. The plane touchdown turnaround, 2 weeks, maybe 8 days that he was a coach or whatever it was. He takes the job there. Miami's like, whatever, come back here. And he leaves and comes back. And now Miami did him dirty. So you saw how Miami was like, we don't give a about Temple.
Right.
We'll pay the buyout. We don't care. And then look at what they did to you, Manny.
Yeah.
And they got touted as having the first ever Hispanic head coach, and they milked that stuff. And then Mario Cristobal.
What was before the Golden guy? He was the defensive coordinator, Randy Shannon, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They didn't do him right either. So I mean, it's like, come on.
Well, next the thing in Miami, I mean, it's like you look at what Miami did with Manny, where he left. They called him back, and he came back, and he spurned Temple, and then he just got spurned by Miami.
Yeah.
And now Mario Cristobal is coming to Miami.
Karma.
And now Oregon's looking for a head coach after they got spanked by Utah for the second year in a row in the Pac-12 championship.
Yeah.
Utah spoiled Oregon twice. You know?
That's a shame.
Miami, that's some dirty. That's some dirty.
Yeah.
So, but you see that, and so now we look at the rest of the ACC. This is what it looks like. Clausen got extended after getting extended. Dave Doran's in good shape. Dabo is in good shape.
Losing coordinators though.
Finally, Brent Venables who they kept paying him.
Yeah.
And now he's at Oklahoma. Listen, eventually I thought, if he wants to be a head coach, you can't pay him enough.
Right.
But I got to commend Dabo Sweeney who was paying him like a head coach, probably double what Syracuse pays anybody.
He was making something like $2 million.
That man was making bank. He was making bank to be there.
Yeah.
So Venables is gone.
I think even our offensive coordinator is thinking about maybe interviewing for some ACC jobs. So.
All it takes is, Dabo's sitting there going, man, I made like 152 college football playoffs, and we had one okay year, and y'all is leaving?
Jumping ship, man.
So.
Well, they striking while the iron is hot, too. Let's get him while he's down.
And then with Louisville,
Satterfield's doing good things, so,
Scott Satterfield's doing good things, but ever since and listen, coaches talk all the time, but he got caught.
Well, yeah, with the South Carolina thing, yes.
And I don't think that's ever going to be a happy marriage.
Yeah.
Because he already cheated. And then the coach you had before him.
The analogy.
But then the coach you had before him, Bobby Petrino, he really done cheated. And you hired him.
Yeah.
So karma there, too.
What that says about you, yeah, exactly.
Florida State, Mike Norvell, you better not fire my dude. And let me tell you something. If for whatever, listen, this is all I'm going to say. This is all I'm going to say about the situation. If Dino gets fired in 2022 and Mike Norvell gets fired, I will fly personally down to get Mike Norvell and bring his booty up here, and I will sit outside of Wild Hack's office, and if you don't hire him, I'm going to get enough alumni to donate, and we going to hire him.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to get some McNabb money up in this piece. So, and then Boston College, they're doing okay.
Yeah, Jeff. Yeah.
With Jeff. So, they're doing all right. So we're seeing some consistency in the Atlantic.
Yes.
Narduzzi's going to be fine. Miami's got Cristobal. Virginia Tech, Virginia Tech, looking at them, they have to find new. Virginia has to find new. And then North Carolina, Duke, and Georgia Tech and all that. So the Coastal's in an upheaval.
Yes.
So the ACC didn't have a great year. As a conference, 2 teams went 7-1 in the conference, Pitt and Wake. Overall, Pitt had the best record, 11-2. Wake was 10-3. Then NC State 9-3, Clemson 9-3, NC State with the head-to-head over them, and then we saw 7-5 for Miami, 6-6 for Louisville, 6-6 for Virginia Tech, Virginia, and North Carolina. None of those coaches could have been fired if they were at Syracuse, and then 5-7 for Florida State and SU, and 6-6 for BC, and then we saw 3-9 for Georgia Tech and 3-9 for Duke. So overall, feel about the ACC this year. And Pitt being a champion, does it hold weight to you?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I was kind of hoping that Wake went undefeated because I just want to see how the committee was going to treat the ACC. I know if you're not the darling of Clemson's or whatever.
I think they would have let them be 6 or 7 in the college football playoff.
Yeah, they wouldn't have got. I mean, they barely was coming in the top 10 when they were undefeated before they started losing.
They got there twice, yeah. They put them there.
Yeah. So, I mean, overall, it was a down year. But you know what? I like kind of seeing some, I'm not saying turmoil, but I like to see some teams rotate and come through. And like I said, recruiting makes a big difference. You know, if you're not bringing in the Trevor Lawrences of the world every year or whatever the case may be, or if injuries may happen for a team, you're going to have to, go back to your roots, adjust. Do some, like you say, some coaching and some game management and try to pull off some wins here and there. And I kind of like that. I mean, we can't just by name anoint you. You got to go out there on the field and do it. And, some of these teams,
And Clawson's been doing it for years.
Exactly. I was getting
He's been finishing 2nd and 3rd in the Atlantic, and he's pushed Clemson right there. NC State, I said twice NC State almost beat, and they missed a field goal, lost in overtime.
Right.
This time they missed a field goal, won in overtime. But Dave Doran has almost gotten Dabo a couple times, and, Dave Clawson's done a great job. And I've said it over and over again. Dave Doran and Dave Clawson got something that Scott Schaefer, who was hired around the same time, never got, which was time.
Yes.
And now you're seeing guys go to the NFL from Wake and NC State, and they're relevant, and they go to bowl games, and they're worthy of it. Mm-hmm. So I don't look at this season and go, oh, yeah, Wake got here because Clemson's not that good.
Right.
Wake has
they always
been
been there. Yeah, they always been pushing that, hey.
And Pitt's been ACC Coastal champions 2 out of the last 4 seasons, 2018 and 2021, and they now are an ACC champion, and I don't care who they played. Pitt came into the ACC in 2013 with Syracuse. Mm-hmm. Pitt has been the Coastal champion, divisional champion twice. They played in the championship game twice. They've won it once. They recruit better. they do better, and they brought Servassier Dennis from CBA right here in the backyard. So I'm going to be very clear about something. Syracuse and Pitt came to the ACC at the same time. Pitt looks like they've been there for 20 years. Syracuse looks like they just got there.
Man, Servassier is from CBA? Wow.
He was a quarterback who gained weight and became a linebacker.
Right, that tells
and
you
I
a
asked
lot.
I asked Dino about him directly, and he didn't answer.
Right.
And he didn't want Servassier. He didn't even offer him.
Right. That's not uncharacteristic. There's a lot of players from the backyard that didn't even get the offer. You know what I'm saying?
Dino said to me in the teleconference last year, he said, "We want to recruit locally. We want to do that. It's important to us. If you know any of the guys, tell me. You have my number. Call me." And I said, "I don't have your number," and that's not true.
Right.
See, the problem with lying is that I know the West Jenny head coach, Maine Endwell, Union Endicott, Shenango Forks, Windsor, CBA, CNS, Liverpool, Baldwinsville, to name a few.
Right.
If he was going to their practices, I would have known.
Exactly. And there's some talent that just recently came out of this area, so it's not
There's
like...
a lot of talent.
Yeah.
That goes to the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
They go to Indiana, they go to Rutgers, they go to UConn, they go to BC, they go to Buffalo, they go to Pittsburgh. Listen, the reality of it all is Coach Mack recruited locally, and he did a million years better than Dino. Paul Pasqualoni recruited locally, and he did a million years better than Dino.
Right.
I don't care what anybody says about anything. They say there's not enough talent here. Nick Saban has flown up here before.
Oh, Dabo's been up here, you know.
And somebody's been here recently.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to let y'all know that. There's a prominent program that's been up here recently because they've been to the Syracuse airport.
Mm. There you go.
So maybe it would behoove Dino to take a plane ride, fly up in the air, circle around, and land in Syracuse to make him think he went somewhere so he can start recruiting here. Because I'm getting a little bit sick of this. I don't care about the alumni. I don't care about the local thing. My assistant coaches can't talk to anybody, and you can't come to practice.
Right. Yeah.
I had a D1 coach tell me that sounds like a recipe to... That sounds like the exact recipe to not be successful. And I was also warned by another coach. He said Eastern Illinois, he didn't recruit. He was there 2 years. Bowling Green, he didn't recruit. He was there 2 years. He said he will kill your program. And I told that coach, the joke's on you, it was already dead. But Schaefer was trying to rebuild it.
Yeah.
I will tell you this 1,000,000 times over. Schaefer and his staff were building something that y'all didn't get to see.
Yeah.
Dino had the victory of that when he went 10-3 with those Kylan Whitners and Eric Dungies and Mo Neals. I don't know if this was a Dino thing or if this was... I don't know if they didn't come because Schaefer left. I don't know if they didn't come because they didn't like Dino or Dino didn't like them. They had 22 commits when Schaefer was fired. Dino had 4 of them.
Right.
And now that I'm looking at the transfer portal, I'm going, maybe this was Dino.
Right. Yeah.
To have 18 guys. And really, none of those 18 guys were good enough?
Right.
So he keeps Mo, who is arguably the top running back in North Carolina. He keeps Rex Culpepper.
Mm-hmm.
He keeps Sam Heckel, and he keeps Scoop Bradshaw.
Right.
That
wasn't
was
Bear? Oh, Bear wasn't part of that class? Bear was a Dino recruit?
He wasn't a Schaefer guy. No.
He wasn't?
I don't think so.
I thought Bear was a Schaefer guy.
I don't think he was. Maybe he was.
Yeah, I thought Bear was a Schaefer guy.
I don't...
No, if he was a 6-year senior, then he had to be
No.
here 6 years with Dino.
So I don't think he was.
He might have was Dino's first class then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, because he kept 4.
Right.
But yeah, I look back on this time, and also this. I want to let people know this too. Besides a demoted George McDonald who left spurned, Schaefer didn't lose any of his staff. They stayed here until the ship sank, which should have never sank. And they've all been successful at one point.
Right.
Lester, DeAndre Smith, Tim Lester, Tim Dowsk, Fred Reed, Jake Moreland, Bobby Acosta, Clark Lee, Chuck Bulla, did I miss it? Joe Adam. They've all been successful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they all recruit better.
Right. No, I like some of the things I was hearing about them, building relationships in the Midwest, coaching clinics.
I was on the
and all that
recruiting
other
trail,
good
and
stuff.
I can tell you from being on the trail, the way that they talked about Schaefer and these coaches,
Right.
I thought you would have thought Schaefer was born here, played here, and was going to die here.
Right.
Syracuse broke his heart.
Yeah.
They broke his heart.
Yeah.
The university has no idea the damage that they did when they fired Scott Schaefer.
Right. Yeah. No, I remember that press conference. I can kind of get the feeling of it too. Yeah. Yeah, it was a tough pill to swallow.
When Schaefer spoke, he got emotional and he did not take a question.
Mm-hmm.
And the media is looking at him, and I'm going, 95% of you crapped on this guy. Why would he take your questions?
Right.
And then he walked outside, and I went outside. He hugged me twice, and he told me that he loved me.
Mm-hmm.
I told him I love him too. And I have a good relationship with him, and I have a good relationship with Dino, and they are not the same person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah. So, guess what? The writing's on the wall now. So we definitely gonna. It's
How many
it's go or no go time.
How many ADs have press conferences to say why they're keeping a coach?
Not many.
Virginia Tech did it last year, and then they fired Justin Fuente this year.
But guess what? Guess what next year got coming? So.
Well, you know what? I would think about this as a coach. I would think, hey, if John Wildhack's still here, I got at least 7 years.
Right.
I can lose a lot. Like 1 in 10.
Well, yeah. If Wildcat
Greg Robinson went 1 in 10, and people lost their minds. Dino
Right.
did it, and they gave him a raise.
Right. Well, I mean, maybe if he's going to give you time, and we always say that's what you need. I mean, I believe
To
that.
the right person.
Yeah. To the right person. I believe that truly. You know, you give that person the time, because kind of like a David Cutcliffe. You know, you give them the time, but then they still got to build their process. You know.
See, but you think about Notre Dame and the LSU's and how like rules are thrown out the window and everything's liquid, including contracts. If I had that press conference as John Wildhack, and then I saw the transfer portal was 14, and I saw other coaches leave, I probably would have said, after saying I was keeping Dino, I probably would have let him go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why does it have to be that way? And this is not me wishing bad on Dino. I'm just saying, if I'm Wildhack and it's only getting worse,
Right.
your season ticket holders don't come.
Mm-hmm.
Less people are going to come now. The dome is half full on its best day, and you pissed off those people. So I'm going to be real. I would say at the end of a game, expect 5,000 to 10,000 people in their seats in a 50,000 seat stadium.
Yeah, if that, you know.
5,000 to 10,000.
Right.
Ithaca could have more people in their stands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, time will tell, and it doesn't look really good for them in this situation. You
And
know?
it's funny because somebody said to me, they go, "Why don't you be the coach?" And I said, "There's no way in hell they would hire me because I'm a broadcaster." But then I thought about it. I'm like, man, people that were fantasy football analysts got hired to be, like VP, what a GMs and whatnot.
Right.
But I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, if I got hired as Syracuse's coach, the relationships I've built over the last 18 years with the alumni, I'm telling you right now, I could probably hire 4 people on my first day.
Right.
Like if I became coach,
It ain't really about you. It's about who you got working for.
and I'm going to be real with you. If
sometimes,
they hired me as coach and people thought it was laughable, do you think it's funny if I called McNabb, David Walker, Duke
Right.
Pettijohn,
Right.
Rob Drummond,
Right.
Terry Richardson? And I would call Pasqualoni to be a part of my staff, even just as a special assistant.
Mm-hmm. It's about who you surround yourself with sometimes too, you know.
Yeah, Carl
that's why-
Sanfilippo, who's just retiring from Beeville.
And that's why you got to pay them the $1 million or whatever to keep, especially if they're the good ones, you know.
If they paid me $1 million and they let me spend the money on my assistant, I'm telling you right now, and I can say this: if I went right now to the alumni that I know that I talk to, I could fill out I could just alumni.
Right.
I'm telling you flat out, because I thought about it and I go, I believe I can do anything. I honestly believe that I can do literally anything.
Right.
I don't believe anything is not in my wheelhouse. And whoever thinks it's funny for me to say the words that I'm saying right now, Terry Richardson, David Walker, Rob Drummond, Duke Pettijohn, there are a lot of guys that I would call right now.
Right.
You have no idea. I would call some of Schaefer's old staff.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that's probably 80-90% of the position.
I'm telling you that the staff would
Your
have...
staff has to be...
Like, laugh at me not being a head coach right now and not being ever being a college football head coach.
Right.
But see my staff? My staff would keep my job.
Right.
For me.
Exactly.
I would just be the figurehead overseeing a lot of really, and it's not that I don't know something about football, but I'm going to hire people that challenge me and that are better than me.
Right.
I should not be the smartest person in the room.
Exactly. I was just getting ready to say that. Yeah. You got to be around people that's
So laugh at it, Wildhead.
bringing it. You know what I'm saying?
Laugh at me. Because if you saw I put together a better staff than you've seen in 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, that's not saying a lot. Still better.
Yeah.
Better than having coaches leave every year.
More connections to the community, more connections to alumni.
Let's think about if I was coach. I have connections to alumni who feel disrespected and spurned, who have said to me that they have checks that they want to give to the football program, and all they want is for Dino to call him, and he won't. So he's turning away free money. So I have alumni that I'm close to that have spoken their piece on my show that I built years of relationships with. Some who would take a bullet for me that I know that. I know the high schools, I cover the high schools, and I know the players because I know the coaches. So I got a local beat. I got a local beat. I got alumni, and I don't like most of the media. so
what are we doing here?
What are we doing?
I feel like a strength and conditioning coach. Come on, man. What are we doing here?
I was saying. And you know what? I'd be calling Hicksy and going, that BS job they gave you?
Yeah.
Because when Hicks was the strength and conditioning coach, listen, I'll put you on his staff. You'll be assistant strength and conditioning coach.
Let's do it, man. I think we just came up with it, you know?
People think I'm kidding.
Let's do it.
Are you going to pay me $1 million? I'm going to be like this. Okay.
Just give me time.
And I'm going to just give me time, like Clausen said. And I'm going to be real with you. When my staff comes here and kills this thing, when we 6-6 and better, I'm going to be real with you. If I have it 2 years of 6-6 or better, 2 to 3 years of that, you never fire my butt. And I'm going to ask for a raise.
Oh, the contract renegotiation.
Ooh, I'm going to be renegotiating a lot. What bowl am I going to do? The Idaho Potato Bowl? I want another $1 million.
Exactly.
Listen, I would change 2 of the biggest glaring issues. Community relations. Oh, I'm sorry, 3. Community relations, recruiting locally, and alumni involvement. Because I don't have to get the alumni involved. They're going to be on my staff.
Right.
You know what Wild Hack said? We're going to need the strength of the entire community. We're going to need the alumni to donate. You don't call them.
Right.
You want people to listen, let me tell you something about family. When you only call your family to ask for money, they stop answering. So you're going to tell these alumni that have come on my show from all different decades that don't feel respected that they're supposed to donate to a program that never talks to them.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm going to do? Instead of asking them for money, I'm going to pay them to be my assistants.
Yeah, we're going to make the money.
Ruh-roh.
Exactly. There you go.
So, is it as crazy? Be 100% God in the room honest. Is it as crazy?
No, I think we got something cooking here. Show me the dotted line, man. That's all I'm saying.
Born and raised. So, that's all I'm going to say about that. Oh, and sponsorships, I already have them. So,
yeah.
I've already worked with the community.
Right.
So, make the right decision. Listen, I'm either going to become the head coach of Syracuse or I'm running for president. You choose. Because Biden's got a connection to Syracuse. He's president right now, and he's... Listen, if I can go 1-10 and fall asleep in meetings, so I think I'm going to be okay.
Yeah, we all right.
We all right. Because I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to be falling asleep in a meeting with the rest of the world, and I'm not going to go 1-10. Only 2 coaches have gone 1-10 in the history of Syracuse: Greg Robinson and Dino Babers.
That's not a club you want to be in.
And I ain't gonna be in that club because I'm like, because there's no listen, because these alumni, they've been there, they've lived. I don't want alumni to come. Dino doesn't even let them come speak.
Yeah.
I don't want alumni to come speak to you one time. I want you to speak to you every day. Rob Conrad, I'm gonna call him too. You don't even know the people that I could call to be a part of this thing right now. Trust that I got phone calls to make.
You're getting the fan base excited, man.
And Mackie McPherson, he just came back to accept a job at Syracuse. I'm going to tell him to come downstairs.
Yeah.
Offensive line coach. Go ahead, Mackie. Do your thing. Because Mike Cavanaugh come here. Oh, he sends everybody in the NFL. He ain't here no more. And then Wild Hack says, I got to keep Mike Schmidt because he's our offensive line coach and we ran the ball well. I'm like, then you keep Mike Lynch.
Right.
Your running backs coach. The offensive line didn't do well. Mike Mike Lynch did well with Sean Tucker.
Right.
Why don't you go pay Mike Lynch? He's not getting any publicity right now. He didn't even mention him in the press conference.
Is he gone?
No, he's here.
Oh, okay.
Mike Lynch here. Nick Monroe here. Sean Ettinger's here.
Yeah.
But these
days I can't tell. I mean, so everybody's leaving. So I don't know.
See, that's the thing. See, Dino's staff doesn't have to worry like Shaver's staff did. Like, oh man, we gave all of these years to this guy, because when Dino's gone, it's gonna be like, oh man, I gave year to this guy. Outside of Monroe, Lynch, and Ettinger, everybody else knew.
Right.
And you think about this, Dino's not keeping them, so he doesn't have those relationships. So when Wildhack said, if I got rid of Dino, I would have lost Schmidt and White. No, you wouldn't have. Schmidt came in 2 years ago. Schmidt came in last year. White came in 2 years ago. They didn't come in originally with Dino, so they didn't have bonds like the other guys did.
Right.
So in that sense of it, you could have probably easily said, we're firing Dino. Tony, do you want to stay? Mike, do you want to stay?
Yeah,
Or you make Tony the head coach, and then he keeps Mike.
Right, that. Because I could probably hardly see another. That's a hard sell. You selling another coach.
You got to keep this guy.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, yeah. If you would have got rid of him, yeah, you could have promoted one of the two. If you thought they were, up and comers.
All I'm saying is, as crazy as you think it might sound, some people out there, if you want me to do like a show at the Wildcat with like 60 alumni, and we can all sit on the couch and talk about it, I think I can get 5 of them to say yes.
No, that's your weekly press show in the Wildcat. How about that? Just saying.
And I've already sat on the couch with Drummond, Carpenter, and Duke Pettijohn this year at the Wildcat, and I call all 3 of them running backs coach, wide receivers coach, and D-line coach.
And you will let them talk too? Oh, man. Hey, you selling a good product there, man. I'm telling you.
Maybe I'll call Bobby Acosta.
I like Bobby.
New York, New Jersey bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I call Tim Lester. Maybe I call DeAndre, who everywhere he's gone, he's sending people to the NFL. Darwin Thompson learned under him at Utah State, won a Super Bowl with Kansas City. Nobody knew who Michael Carter was when he was coaching him in North Carolina. Now he's the starter in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Texas Tech's starting quarterback is his son. But what do I know?
Just saying. Yeah.
What do I know? And DeAndre's got connections everywhere. But what do I know? San Anselm, D2, gave Joe Adam time, and he's been trying to build a program from the ground up, and now he's doing well. But what do I know? Clark Lee, Fred Reed. What do I mean, listen. If Dino ran out of phone calls, I can at least tell you that I won't.
Exactly.
I'm not going to run out of phone calls for a few years. And I would like to think that I know how to network and tell the truth and build relationships.
Especially for the people that want to be around. That's the thing.
Oh, yeah.
They want to be here,
I got some former players that are not that far removed that would come back and maybe try to learn a little bit too.
Right.
So, and Taj Harris did his exclusive with me, so if I was the head coach, I don't think he would have left. But, anywho, so to the American Athletic Conference, Cincinnati, I'm wearing the hat here, not because I'm bandwagon jumping, because I've been covering the American since before they had a name and a logo.
Tell them.
And now they do. So, I'm going to tell y'all, if you check the tape,
check the record.
He knows.
Yeah.
Why don't you go back and check the tape of the last almost decade of my thoughts on the American Athletic Conference, Cincinnati, and the college football playoff. So let's be real about something. I flew my butt to Cincinnati this week. I went to the championship game. I watched them play. I was on the field. I got a lot of specials to still share with you, including my interviews with Luke Fickell and the team. Desmond Ritter, I got to talk to them. Sauce, bunch of these guys. I have backed Cincinnati all year. I have backed the American Athletic Conference since its institution. Mike Oresco is on this show more times than maybe he's home to eat dinner, the commissioner. So, I don't want to hear nobody say nothing about this red hat that I wear. I wear it proudly, and I'm trying to get my butt to the college football playoff because the team that deserved to be there finally got there, and for once in the history of the college football playoff, they did the right thing. So let's talk about how the American broke the proverbial glass ceiling that should have never existed. And Cincinnati is there. Luke Fickell, no matter how many times his name's come up, has stayed true to Cincinnati. And Mike Oresco and everything he said about Power 6, finally, I feel vindicated. I went onto the field after the game. I touched the ground. I stood there in silence. And then I went and I sat in the bleachers and I talked to God for a little while. I'm going to tell my kids about that moment. Cincinnati's in the college football playoff. I want them to win, but no matter what, the American and Cincinnati finally broke a door down that should have never been locked.
Yeah, good for those guys, man. I'm proud that they got getting their just due. I mean, we talked about it. Look what they did. They took Georgia to the wire last year, so it's not like they're a fluke team. It's a good program that's been built the right way, and they earned their chance to be in the playoffs. I mean, it's nothing that's. I know I got you riled up with the rankings and stuff with the teams that they've been trying to sneak up their back door.
Oh, he came in here before we went on the air, and he goes, Dan, the rankings is out.
Exactly. So, but, those guys, they did they just do, and they earned exactly what they're going to get, And I agree with you 100%. There shouldn't be a door. I mean, football is football. Let these guys go out there and play the game. And, what's going to happen is going to happen on the field, but, you just can't take it away from them. That's what, the UCFs of the world, when they was up and high, you didn't give those guys those opportunities to prove themselves on that stage. You never know what's going to happen. Anything can happen in the game of football, So, these guys going to definitely get their opportunity against, the Roll Tides of the world, but they earned it. That's the point. They earned their due to get in that position. So, yeah. Definitely.
One undefeated team out of 130 FBS Division 1A teams. It's named Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
So let them play. Boise State didn't get the chance. UCF didn't get the chance. Cincinnati deserved it last year. They were my fourth team to get in behind Texas A&M, who I thought should be third. Notre Dame got in there, and Notre Dame was an embarrassment, as they've been the couple times that they've gotten into the college football playoff. I don't disrespect Notre Dame. I appreciate all student athletes, all coaches in all places. I want everybody to succeed. All I ask is fairness. Notre Dame did absolutely nothing to get in the college football playoff. They don't play in the conference championship. They did not earn anything. And for the committee to sit there last year and Gary Barta to look into a camera and speak this type of idiocy when he said about Notre Dame that they had a quality win against Clemson and they had just lost to Clemson. They quality win against Clemson was double overtime against a backup quarterback who we saw this year has been that good.
You're right.
DJ Uyunglele. So you play a backup quarterback in his second ever game in college football at home, and it takes you double overtime to win the game. Then when you play a full-strength Trevor Lawrence Clemson team, you get blown out in the ACC championship game. And normally the committee talks about what you've done for me lately, which is why Alabama took one from Georgia. But they changed the rules for everybody to fit their narrative that they created in their brain. Do you know that there's a bunch of criteria that the College Football Playoff Committee is supposed to follow? And then there's an extra thing that's called the eye test, where if they think personally that a team looks better, they can jump all the other criteria.
Well, I think we've seen that displayed plenty of
times. I think the eye test is called whoever they like.
Right, exactly.
So let me talk to you about number 2 Michigan. They beat Western Michigan unranked. They beat Washington unranked. They beat Northern Illinois unranked. They beat Rutgers unranked. First 4 games of the season were at home. They beat Wisconsin at the time unranked. They beat Nebraska barely unranked. They beat Northwestern unranked. They beat Michigan State, who is ranked too, or they lost to Michigan State, who is ranked too high. They beat Indiana unranked. They beat Penn State unranked. They beat Maryland unranked. And then they beat Ohio State. And then they beat Iowa, who didn't really end the season well. Michigan was considered a top 10 team when they had beaten nobody. It was kind of ironic. I think they were ranked 6th in the country when they were 6-0 against unranked teams.
Right.
The reason why I bring this up, Cincinnati gets told that they don't play any ranked teams. Well, Michigan did the same thing. Well, at the end of the season, they beat Ohio State. Okay. Well, guess who got beat by Cincinnati? Notre Dame. Let me go ahead and read you Notre Dame's schedule if you would let me do so. Because Notre Dame every single year gets, what do people say that argue with me about Notre Dame? Well, on paper, the schedule is good. Well, on paper, the Dallas Cowboys are America's team. So they should make the Super Bowl on paper every year. On paper, the on paper, Jim Boeheim is the second all-time winningest coach, so he should always be in the Final Four.
Right.
If we go, no other sport in America, in any place in America that I know of, judges people based on what you think should happen.
And just because the name of a program on your schedule, that don't necessarily mean that program is that good at the current time either. So, yeah.
March Madness is based on how you play and winning a conference championship, conference tournament. That's what it's based on. The NBA is based on how you play. MLB is based on how you play, or else the Yankees would make it every single year. So nothing else in America is based on the eye test or what you think. It's what people actually have done. Notre Dame finished 5th in the nation. They lost one game. It was to Cincinnati. Let me tell you Notre Dame's schedule. Barely beat FSU, who lost to Jacksonville State. Beat Toledo, unranked, barely. Beat Purdue. Beat Wisconsin when they were ranked, and Wisconsin was not that great this year. Lost by double digits at home to Cincinnati. Beat Virginia Tech barely, who fired their coach. Beat USC, who didn't have a coach. Beat North Carolina, who didn't play that well. Beat Navy, who struggled in recent history. Beat Virginia, whose coach just resigned. Beat Georgia Tech, whose coach has not changed anything as of late. And blew out Stanford, who wasn't ranked. Notre Dame played 2 ranked teams. Wisconsin dropped in the rankings, and Cincinnati beat their behind. So please tell me why Michigan and Notre Dame are better than Cincinnati.
The schedule, in the tournament for the basketball, they usually all talk about strength of schedule. There's nothing that on that schedule that shows that Notre Dame did anything to earn that spot.
And they talk about strength of loss.
Right. Or they got to make up something extra now. So,
if Alabama had 2 losses, they would have said, but they played Georgia close, and they would have put them in.
Yeah, true.
There's only one team in America that can lose 2 games, and it's Alabama.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely. The eye test definitely would have got them in.
Alabama would get in with the committee saying they looked good in their losses.
Yeah.
Again, if it's just based on history like it is with Notre Dame, Syracuse should be in the college football playoff because Syracuse's history is ripe.
Yeah.
Jim Brown, Ernie Davis, Floyd Little. Nobody can talk about that trifecta. Nobody can talk about Donovan McNabb. Nobody can talk about the Joe Morrises and the Larry Zonkas and the Art Monks and the Kevin Johnsons and the Marvin Harrisons and the Chandler Jones and the Arthur Jones.
Yeah, but it ain't history. It's about what you did for me lately and what you're doing today, who you lining up against,
For most of America, it's what you've done for me lately. For the SEC, the Big Ten, and Notre Dame, it's whatever we want to say is the reason.
Right. I think most of any time Notre Dame's gotten into the playoffs, it's been because, that whole eye test thing.
Because the committee said their schedule normally is hard.
Well, okay.
They got in the year that they blew out a Dungy-less Syracuse, a not good Florida State, and then they barely beat Vanderbilt, they barely beat Ball State, and they played a bunch of unranked, so USC wasn't ranked, and they're like, yeah, but the schedule looked good. And then I can also bring up the reality of when you look at all of this, and I say to myself, what team in America, in high school, college, or pro, can lose an entire coaching staff after going undefeated and go undefeated again? And UCF did that. UCF went undefeated with Scott Frost, went to a bowl game, won that bowl game. In the Fiesta Bowl, they beat Baylor. They said they had no business being there. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was with George O'Leary. And then they went after that. They beat Auburn, who that year had beat Alabama and Georgia, who both made the college football playoff championship. So they beat the team that beat the other 2 teams. And then everybody left. Josh Heupel came in. They went undefeated again. And they lost to LSU when they got put on the other side of the country in the Rose Bowl, I believe. They lost by 8 without their starting quarterback.
Right.
And everybody's like, LSU didn't have, UCF didn't have either. And let me tell you something about Cincinnati last year when I put them in the college football playoff because I thought they should have been there. Cincinnati lost to Georgia, and they said Georgia didn't have players playing. Cincinnati had more players not playing than Georgia, and Cincinnati commanded the entire game and lost by a last-second field goal.
That tell you. I mean, that tell you how good the strength of the program.
And I'm sorry, was Kirby Smart the coach last year for Georgia?
Yeah, same guy.
And Luke Fickell was the coach of Cincinnati, right?
Mm-hmm.
And unless Georgia lost all their players from last year, the players that played Cincinnati, a lot of them are still on Georgia, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Alabama too big for the situation. Let me tell you something. Georgia is going to be peeing themselves if Cincinnati gets out of that one.
Right.
And I hope it's Cincinnati, Georgia, because your boy I already applied for the college football. I'm going to try and get to that shit. But I'm going to tell you something right now. Cincinnati is not afraid of anybody. I loved Luke Fickell's comment. I'm paraphrasing. When he got asked the question, what are you going to say to the committee? He goes, the last time I checked, the committee doesn't call my players, and they don't call me.
Mm-hmm.
He said, if you want to know what my argument is, go look at what we just did on the field.
Mm-hmm.
That's my team's argument. What we did all year and what we just did on the field now, our argument is our work, our body of work. But he said, as far as what we're doing at noon, we had already scheduled a luncheon with the players and the families and whatnot. He said, we're going to be at the luncheon while they're making the decision that they never call me about.
Right. Yeah, you don't have to petition the committee. I mean, like you
It
say,
wouldn't matter if he did.
Exactly. Hey, we put our work on the field. You tell me why we don't deserve it. You know what I'm saying? They earned it. So
UCF for 2 years and Cincinnati for 2 years deserved it.
Mm-hmm.
And in 25% of the time, they've made it.
Right.
But you know what? I'm just happy that forever etched in the history of the college football playoff will be an American Athletic Conference logo.
Yeah, that's cool. That is cool, though. Yeah.
So,
and then, like, you know what? Not only them, but you got to open it up. I mean, what's used to playing football if conference champions are not allowed to play for a title? You know, why should I be the Big 12 or the Pac-12? You know, yeah, you might be down, but still, if I'm the champion, get me in there, just like the big dance with basketball.
there's 10 conferences.
Yeah.
You expand it to 12, and you let the 10 in.
Right.
And then you let in Notre Dame because you're going to do it no matter what. And then
you know they're going to scout.
And then you let in another SEC team.
Right.
But then the SEC is going to scout. They're gonna moan and say, "Look, we got Oklahoma,
yeah, just gonna
we got LSU, we got Alabama, we got Texas A&M, we got Auburn, we got Florida, we got Georgia."
Yeah, no, that's all I was gonna say.
I'm gonna say the SEC. Why don't y'all just play your own league and everybody else will play? Why don't you just play your own championship?
Yeah.
Why don't you just become the farm system for the NFL?
Basically, yeah. Almost. You know, most of your top draft choices come out of the SEC, you know, and produce, you know, so.
Do the right thing. The College Football Playoff Committee finally did it.
Yep.
So, for the American, for the ACC, for Syracuse, and for the College Football Playoff conversation on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and this special for you, this has been a wonderful moment inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, and I want to let y'all know very quickly, as you know, every Monday through Friday, the normal time for Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You can watch on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/livenowdt, mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, and the homepage wakeupcalldt.com. Search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in the archives on MixLR, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, Podbean, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, as well as YouTube and other avenues. All you have to do is go to your favorite podcasting or video platform and search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora or Wake Up Call DT. Big thanks to our Central and Upstate New York partners, Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, Wildcat Sports Pub, Progressive Dental, Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. You can order anywhere in the country from Ma and Pa's, and they'll deliver to your doorstep at maandpaspopcorn.com. No excuses to the 50 states and all your bowl games. Go to maandpaspopcorn.com and get your popcorn ready. Avicoli's Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Pizza Man, Lemoyne Dolphins, Millhouse Market, Honda City of Liverpool, PB&J's Lunchbox, Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, and Mother's Cupboard. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is also the proud multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. It's Fins Up here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora with the Lemoyne Dolphins, who have Dolphin Time every Wednesday at 9, where you get exclusive content weekly with the Lemoyne Dolphins, student athletes, coaches, staff, as well as the athletics director, Bob Beretta. Every first and third Wednesday is AD and DT with Bob Beretta and myself. And every second and fourth Wednesday is Dolphin Dive with a student athlete, coach, or staff member. You can check out more on Lemoyne on the Lemoyne tab on wakeupcalldt.com. Subscribe to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt for Lemoyne content, and go to LeMoyneDolphins.com. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is also the first ever historic multimedia marketing partner of Marywood University. My alma mater and Pacer Pride comes to you every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Those specials are available to you from Executive Director of Athletics Pat Murphy, coaches, and student athletes on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, where you can subscribe, the Marywood tab on wakeupcalldt.com, and of course, go to marywoodpacers.com. With that being said, for myself, Dan Tortora, and Isaac Alford, thank you, sir.
Hey, appreciate it. Always a pleasure.
Appreciate you as always. As you're wearing the correct hat, there's only one 23 legend, and that's Michael Mother Freaking Jordan. Thank you, brother.
Enjoy your holidays.
You too. We'll talk with you all soon, and hope you all have a great day. God bless. No stress. Do your best.